Alrighty, we're gonna try this again. We were gung ho, and then yeah. My entire stream before was just starting for 6 minutes, but now we're back. You know, I think my goal for this will be I want 110 followers. I'm at 101. They don't even have to watch. They just got to be like, man, this kid knows his stuff. Let's go ahead and watch him. All right, here's what we got going on. We're going to go ahead and learn some Pearl Harbor history to start us off here. Today, for those of us tuning in, is technically the anniversary of America joining in on World War II. Just honestly, I think a lot of people's favorite war. Which I never really I understand why. I think it's the most like war. I know my little brother and I have talked about that a handful of times, where you've got like planes, you've got ships, you've got people, artillery, guns, all that stuff. So I think it's a very war type. I will say in history, though, you do have a lot of wars that are very similar, like the Peloponnesian War, where Athens was versing Sparta. You've got ships because the Athenians were super noteworthy for their ships. But then on the flip side, you've got the Spartans, which obviously we all know about Spartan soldiers being just about as good as soldiers. Honestly, is there a better soldier than the Spartans? I mean, definitely if you go in antiquity, it's tough to narrow down. I know there's that old show, the whoever versus whoever. I don't remember who actually won that. Honestly, I haven't seen it too much. I just know it was a show, but they had like Spartans versus Samurais. That'd be a good one. If you could upgrade all the Spartan stuff to nowadays, what are they? The Navy SEALs? The Marines? I really don't know. Spartans used to go to, it was called the Agoge. Agoge or Agora? One of them is the mall. One of them is military school. Nonetheless, they were 5 years old when they would go to I believe it's the Agoge for the first time, and then basically stay there until they're 18. And then from there is when they would go really off just to the military. So anyways, what I've got today is, check this out. We got a little Pearl Harbor history. Make sure it looks okay on the screen here. Oh yeah, very good. So I actually made these prezzies way back in the day when I was student teaching. So they're a little old, they're a little dated, but Pearl Harbor, I suppose, is a little old and a little dated. But yeah, and for the record, don't watch the Pearl Harbor movie. It's the battle scene, sure, is fine. The rest of the movie, I don't know. I was never a fan. I mean, it's cool. You got, who's the guy that is in Pearl Harbor? Matt Damon? Matt Damon? No, not Matt Damon. What's Matt Damon's buddy's name? Shoot. Ben Affleck. Yeah, he is. I like Ben Affleck a lot in The Town. I mean, and he's fine in Pearl Harbor. I'm not saying it's his acting. It's this love story where they think he's dead and he's not dead. And then his wife or girlfriend or whoever basically starts dating his best friend. And then he comes back and I don't know. I didn't care for that part. I get that you have to do that to add whatever love interest because that's what every movie supposedly needs. Except Midway. Midway is just good. That's some good, honest World War II. Just some good, honest battles. So yeah, anyway, there's if you want to watch a movie on Pearl Harbor, I'm going to pull this one up. Don't watch Pearl Harbor. Watch the movie. It's called Tora. It is from, what year is Tora? 1970. And I know what you're thinking, Matt. This is 1970. It's probably terrible. This is as good of a Pearl Harbor movie as you will find. Tora, by the way, it means tiger in Japanese. So this is what they were yelling up in the plains, was Tora. Also, there are a couple scenes in this movie that there was no CGI. Again, this is 1970. So some of the people running away from some of the explosions, they were legitimately running away from the explosions because the stunts team did not necessarily do the best. I know there was a scene where they hit one of the hangars, and people are like legitimately running for their lives because they actually blew up, and that wasn't supposed to happen. So when you watch the movie, it looks fake, like they're running away from a fire, but in actuality, they really were running away from a burning hangar, or whatever the case. Basically, bombs fell, and they were like legitimately trying not to die. So yeah, definitely Tora Tora Tora. This is a super good one. And then I know Pearl Harbor and Midway, but Midway, the new movie. Yeah, Midway, I don't know what year this one came out. 2019, also super good. You got a Jonas brother in there. Plays a real character, Bruno Guido. If you don't know anything about Bruno Guido, by the way, he's an awesome figure. Yeah, that's definitely a good one. I would wholeheartedly check that out. Midway is, again, one of my favorite battles of all time. But let's jump into Pearl Harbor. I think that's why all the people are here. Pearl Harbor being, it's just such a fascinating event, Pearl Harbor is. Like, as to why it happens, as to the actual event in itself, as to how it looks today, as to how it makes such a major impact worldwide. You have to think kind of where we're at. In December of 1941, the United States is not in World War II. Whether or not they would have actually eventually came into World War II, Lord only knows. The United States still had this isolationist, kind of we do our own thing. Based, it's a European war. I think the irony in that is they had the same thoughts in World War I. I mean, Woodrow Wilson, his whole campaign platform on being elected to the president is it's a European war. We're not going to worry about it. It's not us. Now, albeit World War I starts in 1914, the United States does not join until 1917. So I guess, yeah, we stayed out of it for a little bit. I believe Wilson gets elected in 16. So about a year and a half or so into his presidency, do we join World War I? World War I, I'll give the benefit of the doubt because it's very similar in World War II. Whereas in World War I, the Zimmerman Note came out. The Zimmerman Note was Germany sends this letter to Mexico and is like, hey, Mexico, you should go ahead and try to just invade the American South, primarily New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas, and we'll supply guns and ammo and all this good stuff. Germany thinking that Mexico trying to invade the U.S. would be really keep their attention off of Europe so Germany can go do its thing in Europe. Well, this ends up getting confiscated by the British, who sends it almost immediately over to the U.S., and we're like, hey, that's not cool. The sinking of the Lusitania helps propel America into World War I, handful of other different events. But World War II, same thing. You kind of got a similar story where the United States is not initially planning on joining, and obviously Pearl Harbor is going to change that real quick. But again, yeah, they just pop in. I mean, it's the next day, which is December 8th. So we are Pearl Harbor +1 as far as the day is concerned as to what happens historically. The day, yeah, is, let's see, America. I will search it just to double check. What day does America join World War II? It should be, December 8th. Yeah. The United States officially joined World War II on December 8th, 1941, when Franklin Delano Roosevelt declared war against Japan. This is the day that he says we have been suddenly and deliberately attacked by the sovereign nation of Japan. That super, super famous speech. That takes place today. I lied, actually. I think the speech might have been yesterday, but we officially declared war today. Nonetheless, I need to know, because Germany takes a little bit. The United States officially entered World War II on December 11th, but I think that's when they declare war on Germany. When does the United States declare war on Germany, World War II? Yeah, we officially declare war on Germany. That is December the 11th. I knew it was later.
So to enter the World War, we had to declare against each person in the thing?
ex post facto declaring. Yeah, it's goofy because by the time that World War II is going around, and this was a major problem in World War One, where you have all of these different alliances. It's actually part of the reason that World War One gets so suspect, because you have all of these random military alliances. So when you go to war with one, you have to go to war with another. It's kind of like Belgium was neutral, but when Germany marched through Belgium, because Britain had Belgium's back, they joined. And because Russia had France's back in World War I, they joined. Why the United States takes the extra 3 days to declare war on Germany, I don't know. It's not like they were unaware of war at this time. Again, the United States was lending and leasing different supplies to Great Britain. One of my other favorite battles, the Battle of the Denmark Strait, takes place. That's May of 1940. So, you're almost looking at a year and a half before Pearl Harbor even happens. You're 2 years removed from Germany invading Poland and this uneasy truce with Russia about splitting Poland in half. So I took him the extra couple days. I don't know. I'm sure it's an easy answer. Yeah, I'm declaration of war with Germany. Congress approved a resolution declaring war with Germany. The Senate unanimously approved of the resolution, but I wonder if I can find my girl Jeanette Rankin here. Yeah, so only person... She must have been in the House. Yes. Jeanette Rankin, the first... Oh, okay, I did not know this about her, and well, I might have forgotten. Jeanette Rankin, the first woman elected to Congress, is known for her unique stance against the declaration of war on Japan in 1941. She's the only member of Congress to vote against the declaration of war on Japan following the attack on Pearl Harbor. Her vote was met with a chorus of hisses and boos reflecting the strong opposition to her decision. Her commitment to pacifism and her role as a suffragist during the progressive era. Yeah, basically she voted no because, again, she's a woman and women could not be in the military at the time. So, yeah, she does vote no. She must have been in the House. Let's see. Let's see. U.S. House of Representatives from Montana. From 41 to 43. Boy, what are the odds that... she just happens to be in the House at the same time that this happens. She was a lifelong pacifist. One of 50 House members who opposed the declaration of war on Germany in 1917. Okay. 1941, she was the sole member of Congress to vote against the declaration of war on Japan. As of 2025, she remains the last member of Congress to vote against a declaration of war. That is very interesting. I also will say, I'm pretty sure since 1941 when we joined, I don't think the Congress has wars declared by U.S. Congress. I wonder if it says formal. Okay, so here's the declared wars, the War of 1812. That one was real close, 19 to 13 in the Senate. That's the closest numbers margin. So that's War of 1812. Then we went Mexican-American War. It's in 46. Abe Lincoln, I don't know if he technically votes against that war, but Abe Lincoln was not a fan of the Mexican-American War. Abe, not being the president at the time, he was in the House of Representatives as just a first-time representative from Illinois. And when he told James K. Polk he was a liar for Polk's rationale to get in the war, people really bashed on Lincoln for it. Almost ruined his entire political career. Then you've got in 1898, the Spanish-American War. That one got started when the U.S. Maine exploded. That was off the coast of Havana, Cuba. The Maine explodes. Teddy Roosevelt, who eventually becomes the 24th president of the United States, he was gung-ho on going to war with Spain. So to that, they had the slogan, to hell with Spain, remember the Maine. So we go to war in 1898 and wrap up that war also in 1898. We beat the pants off of Spain. That's where the Battle of Manila Bay takes place, where we just go in and just absolutely brainwash them. Kind of interesting. Look at that treaty. I did not know it was the Treaty of Paris that ends it. There's like 1,000 Treaty of Paris Treaty of Paris. Look at all these Treaty of Parises. Hold on. I wonder if we scroll down. Oh, this is just this Treaty of Paris. And there is so many treaty.
Like names after them to say like which one it goes with.
They just go with the year. So I'm on treaties that are named the Treaty of Paris, and there's a ton. The first Treaty of Paris was in 1229, which ended the Albigensian Crusade. Then you've got the Treaty of Paris in 1259 between Henry III and Louis the Ninth of France. I don't know what all of these have done. The treaties that I know really well are the Treaty of Paris in 1763 ends the 7 Years' War. We know that war here in the United States as the French and Indian War. By the way, the Treaty of Paris in 1763 is what turned Florida over to Great Britain. So up until that point, we were Spanish. The Treaty of Paris 1783 is probably the most well-known Treaty of Paris here in the United States because that is the treaty that ends the American Revolutionary War. So that is 1783. I did not have any idea that 1898, that was the Treaty of Paris. Anglo-Prussian War. Again, there's so many. I didn't know there was a Treaty of Paris that ended the Crimean War. See, look at that. Treaty of Paris 1815 is another. That one I probably should have known because that is Napoleon. The Crimean War, by the way, it's this war that was going on, more or less a European war, but a lot of the Civil War generals, or a lot of the bigwigs that become bigwigs in the Civil War, will watch or take notes on what was going on with the Crimean War and then use those strategies over here in the United States. Let's see. Treaty of Paris 1951, I think, is the most recent, like, legit just Treaty of Paris. And that established the European coal and steel community. Good for them. Interesting. Go back over here to... Oh, yeah, and then anyways, the United States declared war on World War I and World War II. Yeah, look at that. 82-6 against Germany. It is interesting that in World War I, the United States declared war on both Germany and then Austria-Hungary. And that took them... Oh, look at that. The United States declared war on Austria-Hungary December 7th, 1917. So those guys were probably waking up thinking that December 7th was an anniversary of... Boy, the United States has declared war the most times in December. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's supposed to be the Christmas time, and yet the United States is too busy declaring war. Man, the United States in World War II, we must have been hungry for war. In the Senate, 82-0. You know, I'm kind of curious because the Senate has 82 people. There's 100 people in the Senate. Why only 82 voted? I wonder if a handful abstained. So this is just Japan. 82-0. 388 members of the House voted yes, and then Jeanette Rankin, of course, voted no. To declare war against Germany, 88 people said yes. 0 people said no. It was unanimous in the House, 393. But then on my poor Italian heritage, all my Italians in San Paolo Matese, 90 people in the Senate, more people said Italy against anybody else, and 399 in the House. Just, wow. That is interesting. I guess people there did not like Italy. Which, speaking of World War II, I know we're going to talk about Pearl Harbor here, but there was a Battle of San Paolo Matese. This is my family's... I think there was a World War II battle somewhere nearby because the Germans occupied my grandparents' hometown at some capacity. Yes, where they needed to get the... My grandpa loves telling the story with the... Yes. My grandma apparently came from a big farm that had like a whole bunch of land and whatnot. When the Germans came over, they just like knocked down the house and took all the gold, and the story with the well and the water. And The some of the people at Italian on the coffee were talking about the Germans came. They kind of had a similar story, though. This guy that was talking was much older, so his family would have also been older. But he said that when the Germans took over whatever town that he came from, they did not sack the town. All the Germans did was make the Italians cook for them, which I thought was really funny. My dad said a similar story that my grandpa must have told him a while back, where the Germans were like, man, these Italians sure can't cook. So I guess they tended to treat the Italians a lot nicer because the Italians cooked for them. And in the classic Italian way, even though they were being suppressed by the enemies there, they were still being hospitable. There's Jeanette Rankin. Go back to Pearl Harbor. Man, there's like so many cool things here with World War II. Bum, bum, bum. Okay. But it's been a while since I've worked one of these prezzies. All right, so what was Japan up prior to war? By the way, this flag, the rising sun, is... I know it is Imperial Japan, and technically they were our enemies in World War II. But let me tell you, if you can't get hyped following a flag like that, it's just such a cool one. This picture, it doesn't even have color, and like it just looks so solid. I know that all the flags have different meanings, so I'm sure if I look this up, there'd be a meaning behind why they did this. I always make the joke that the Japanese flag is a pie chart of how much of Japan is Japan. But this, oh man, the rising sun, that's just such a cool, I wish America had like a cool name like that. I guess Land of the Free, if you want to go, is kind of cool. The rising sun, though, man, I don't know. I wish America was the rising sun, honestly. I wish we got that one. Japan could be Land of the Free. I'll take the rising sun. I'm such a fan of that. Who doesn't like a sunrise, too? I mean, is there people that wake up and they're like, sunrises are awful and I hate them? It's like picking your favorite rainbow, picking your favorite sunrise. Cloudy day, man, even if the sun just peeks through the clouds, is there a better feeling? Because I feel like the sun's just trying its hardest just for me. So anyways, Japan in the Empire of the Rising Sun, they were up to a whole bunch at this point, by the way. Prior to 1941, they beat the pants out of Russia in the Russo-Japanese War. Total, if you're looking for upsets, man, Russia, big and large, goes to war with Japan. Japan ends up beating them up pretty good. Starts to make some rumblings on the world scene. Helps out in World War I, though they don't play like a massive, massive role. They were there. They were hanging out. And by the early 1930s, late 1920s, they start to realize as an island nation, they need to expand a little bit, mostly for resources and money and, kind of all the classics as to why different countries expand and take over. So they do take over Manchuria in 1931. Manchuria is in China. Poor China, by the way, gets absolutely demolished during World War II. Most of their own people will die. Japan goes in and just absolutely obliterates different parts of China. Something that happens a lot pre-World War II is different countries start leaving the League of Nations, which were created by Woodrow Wilson in 1919 after World War I. And he was like, hey, we're going to start this thing. It's going to be called the League of Nations. And basically, we're all going to be best friends. And then different countries start leaving that right when World War II starts, basically saying, like, hey, we're not all friends anymore. So Japan will leave the League of Nations. I believe Germany does pretty soon. I don't think Russia stays in there. Not 100% sure on that. Japan will officially align with Germany in 1936, which you have to think that is 5 years before Pearl Harbor. I think a lot of people just assume that Japan goes ahead and knocks out Pearl Harbor and then they buddy up with Germany kind of to hide behind, but not necessarily true. We have to go back to what is going on in Germany in the 1930s. Hitler has pretty much just taken over. Also, sidebar on Hitler, and I think a lot of people don't know this, and I think this is one of the most fascinating parts of World War II that people don't know, is Germany at this point is fried. Germany after World War I has to pay back basically all of the money for World War I, so they are so heavily in debt, and they made the number one mistake where they just printed out a bunch of money, so they go into not inflation like we know here in the United States today, they go into hyperinflation, which is astronomically worse. the price of bread was like millions of dollars for just a pack of bread. People were burning money in the streets because it was basically useless. And what are we going to do about this? Hitler, known bad guy, I'm not saying he's not, comes in, and really what he does is he just starts revamping the military. Honestly, kind of turns the economy around, which is a miracle in his own right. If we have to give credit where credit's due, he does start to do that. While he is, of course, being mean to a whole lot of people in the process, don't get me wrong. But the Nazi Party then legitimately starts like gaining seats to Congress. It's slow and it takes a little bit. And I believe the first election that they're in, they gain like 1%. But by the mid 1930s, they are the majority in Congress. It would be like here in the United States if it was like, yeah, we have Republicans and Democrats, and then we have, whatever party comes in. And the first one, there's only like one or two. And then by, 2045, that's the majority. So that is legit the Nazi Party. I think that is a crazy kind of side story that people overlook. So when Hitler gets elected as the next man in charge, which the president of Japan, von Hindenburg, does die suddenly and unexpectedly, and the Reichstag, where the German Congress meets, also gets set on fire in kind of a bizarre, nobody quite knows what happens. So again, there's probably some politicking going on behind the scenes there. But nonetheless, he is officially legally voted into power. He does then turn to Congress and has them grant the, I believe it's called the enabling powers, something like that, which is when he turns into the Fuhrer and he just gets to say that he is the, supreme leader and the dictator in charge. So that is all in the early to mid 1930s. And as he's looking around the world scene, Hitler really idolized Benito Mussolini, who at this point was the dictator of Italy. So they're going to go ahead and shake hands and be buddies. And Hitler looks around and realizes what Japan's doing over in Asia and buddies up with them in 1936. That, of course, creates the Axis powers. Japan, the following year, is when they officially take over China. They go into Nanking. They do not treat the people there very well. It is completely it's not good there for China. Like I said, China really does not fare well during World War II. But nonetheless, Japan needs to take all of these places over because they got oil and resources that they desperately need. Okay, who are the Japanese leaders? These three fellows pictured here are your head honchos of Japan. You've got Emperor Hirohito, which I am pretty sure the current emperor of Japan is his grandson, and he just recently became the emperor of Japan. It's a cool name. Hold on. It is, let's see, current emperor of Japan. I want to say it is a... Let's see. This is Emperor of Japan is the head higher. Okay, I want to know who it is. Naruhito. Yeah, the chrysanthemum throne. Is there can you imagine? Like, we've got a president. Where's the president sit on? A chair? Can you imagine if the president of the United States got to sit on the chrysanthemum throne? I'm telling you, Japan's got the rising sun. They've got the chrysanthemum throne. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. Let's see. The reign of his... Yeah, okay. He was born during the reign... Yeah. Naruhito, the current emperor of Japan. His grandfather was Hirohito, who was the emperor of Japan during World War II. Kind of interesting. Hirohito, even after World War II ends, he stays being the emperor of Japan. And then his son becomes the emperor of Japan. And his son abdicates, I think, because of health. It wasn't because he was doing a bad job. So... I can't say I know how Japan is doing, but yeah, check this out. So the next guy in line to be Emperor of Japan is the current emperor's little brother. That's pretty cool. Who is 60. I wonder if they have any kids and how that goes. Yeah, look at this guy. Looks like a nice guy. I hope they're doing well over there in Japan. I always said if I wasn't Italian and German and Austrian, which I do like being Japanese, I think would be pretty cool. I don't know why. I've always liked the culture. Anyways, so Hirohito is this guy up here. He's got all these cool little medals there. He is the emperor, but I also will say about the emperor is the emperor doesn't translate into today's president. He's more or less like kind of like what the king and queen in England are today. It's like, yeah, they're the king and queen, but they're not like the king and queen you think of like in medieval times or like in the 15, 16, 1700s. It's not like he's got the final say, though he is still very influential. Of course, he still is the emperor. This dude with the little Harry Potter glasses right here and this awesome mustache, he is, I would say, closer to what the president is. This is Hideki Tojo. Tojo and Yamamoto clash a lot. Tojo is like super military, basically works his way up from being a nobody to the prime minister of Japan. So as far as somebody that is super gung-ho with war and all of that stuff, if there's and I don't want to make him as the villain here, but if there's a person you want to blame or somebody that really, really, really took Japan to the next level, at least from a military standpoint, that is without a doubt Hideki Tojo. Who one thing with Japan during World War II, and if they ever could have figured this out, they would have been so much better. But their navy didn't gel with the army and the air force, and they all basically worked almost independently from each other. If Tojo could have ever just got the boys on the same level, they would have been a heck of a lot fiercer than they already were, and they already were an adversary opponent. I mean, just it's unfortunate for them. As far as if you want to villainize somebody and make them to be the bad guy for just Pearl Harbor, this is Isoroku Yamamoto. He was the commander-in-chief of the Japanese fleets. Incredibly talented, incredibly smart individual. I mentioned yesterday that he actually attends school at Harvard here in the States for a little bit. He was so well respected that there were times that he threatened basically resigning if the Navy didn't do something how we wanted to, or he had all of these good ideas, and they were like, no, we need you. Just very gifted. He was, I don't remember the name of the ship that he's on, but he is there when Japan goes to war with Russia back in the early 1900s. So by this point, he's like a seasoned veteran. He also will lay out the plans of the Midway attack the following year in 1942. So I guess say what you want about Pearl Harbor, if it's a success or not. Say what you want about Midway. Great idea behind Midway. It's unfortunate for Yamamoto that the United States did have all of the plans and the codes. Like, obviously, yeah, from the United States standpoint, that's pretty awesome, and hooray us, because otherwise we would have gotten destroyed at Midway. But again, incredibly gifted. Yamamoto will end up passing away in 1943. It's called Operation Vengeance. And same thing, we knew exactly where he was going to be flying out of. So there's this really eerie photo. It is the last known photo of Yamamoto. He's going and inspecting some pilots and whatnot. And then when they take off, the United States know where he's at. So they go and shoot down his plane. We know it is him because he was carrying this katana in his basically his white on white outfit that they found. So kind of interesting that you can see photos of the plane that he was in that got shot down, confirming killing Yamamoto. There's also a photo of Yamamoto and this guy, I think it's Kubakai, I don't know if I'm saying that right, together, and they were on one of the ships that was one of his buddies that actually survived Operation Vengeance. I wonder if I can see it, because his buddy is the last known kamikaze fighter in all of World War II, which I think is pretty interesting. Operation... Yeah, kamikaze fighters are the guys that go in knowing that they're they go and try to hit the ships. Japan doesn't do it as much until the end of the war. They start getting kind of desperate. I will say, if there's one thing about Japanese pilots compared to American pilots during World War II, is if you had a pulse, the United States was like, go be a pilot, that sounds great. Japanese pilots took a really, really long time to get to be pilots. Also, by the middle of the war, they started running out of resources, so they couldn't practice as often. So when you have battles where Japan loses a lot of pilots, it took forever to replenish the pilots, whereas in the United States, hypothetically, if they lost some big air battle, it's fine, we've got all these extra resources. This is that picture of Yamamoto I was talking about, by the way. So that's the outfit he's in when he passes away. We need to see the Japanese pilots. Yeah, early on in the war, Japan's pilots were Machiavelli. Dude, you haven't been over there, and I don't even think about jumping up there. Machiavelli, get over here. What are you doing? Guys, my cat has not noticed this Christmas tree. Well, I lied. He notices the Christmas tree. He hasn't been over here in forever. Machiavelli, yep, get your butt over here, you little slime dog. Look at him. Machiavelli, yeah, get him. What are you doing? Yeah, why don't you? Okay. Yeah, do I think the pilots though? Yeah, early on in the war though, Japan's pilots were like so far superior. The one thing that Japan has early on in the war is they have by far the better airplanes. The Japanese Zeros were absolutely incredible. They were like way faster and maneuverable compared to the American planes. So early in the war, when you had way better pilots and better planes, whew, those boys were going up in the sky and just beating the snot out of us. Eventually, the United States planes technology kind of caught up. And when we just had pilots that had been out there for a couple years, I think it kind of evened out. If anything, maybe tipped towards the American favor, to where the Zeros weren't like the best airplane. Actually, here in Pensacola, Florida, at the Naval Aviation Station, this guy, Thatch, I can't remember his first name. I think it's John. Might be Edward. Created a thing called the Thatch Weave, which was a strategy to shoot down the Zeros. And Butch O'Hare, who O'Hare Airport is named after, was Thatch's gunner. Now, unfortunately for Butch O'Hare, he will pass away also in 1943 during the first nighttime raid in the history of the United States. There is a rumor that his plane actually got shot down by friendly fire. Again, it was at night. That has never been confirmed nor technically denied. But kind of interesting. That is a cool, interesting connection. I had another connection there on that between Thatch and O'Hare. That is why, by the way, O'Hare Airport, if you fly into it, it is OCD or ORD? ORD, not OCD. ORD. It is ORD, and you're like, how does ORD make sense for O'Hare? That's because prior to being named O'Hare, it was Orchard Park is what O'Hare Airport used to be named prior to that. I want to see if I can find this guy that survived. I don't know if I'll be able to find it, though. Machiavelli, you've got, yeah, okay, right here. Boom, 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 boom. Matome Ugaki. He is with, here's the picture I was talking about. Here's him. Here's Yamamoto. Look at Yamamoto smiling. It is unfortunate that when you think of these guys, you think of them as like these war monster evil people. Again, probably not these are our enemies, but look at how happy they are. Good for them. He's got his little tiny cap on. I always think those are funny. Anyways, this is the last photo of him. This is in August of 1915. I'm pretty sure the United States, if they haven't already dropped one of the atomic bombs, they do. It's like this. Machiavelli, you're going to go down.
Look, that sheet's on there pretty good.
Mac, oh, hold on. Yeah, I know. Why don't you work on? I'm telling you guys, cats are maybe the best animal on the entire planet, but then they do some dumb stuff like this, eh, Mac? Uh-huh. No, I like Machiavelli because he is a complete moron as he is, so I wouldn't want him any other way. So anyways, that's a little bit about the Japanese High Command. Going on a little tangent on them. So anyways, why does Japan... Mac? He's just going to go right back to it. Watch that. Guys, he's going to fall. He's over a dog pen right here, and he's going to fall on that. Mac, why do you like the tree so much, buddy? I don't understand this. It's going to come down. We're going to have to clean it up. I know how this is going to work. Is there a way that we could like put something up right here, I wonder? I don't know. I think we did last year, and they just jumped over it.
I was gonna say, he can jump on anything.
Yeah.
Remember, he jumped straight over his pen to get
Yeah, that is true. Man, Mac, you got a good vertical. Where are you going, buddy? So, anyways, why does the United States go after, or why does Japan go after the United States? Well, America's not super keen on all of these things Japan is taking over. Um, the United States isn't super keen that Japan is also on the same side as Germany and Italy, the known bad guys in World War II. The main theory is the United States stopping supplying the oil, the steel and oil to Japan. This was vital to Japan because if I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm pretty sure that the United States supplied, it's like 80 to 90% of the Japanese oil. Again, Japan is an island. They can't just get their own oil, so they have to get it elsewhere. We were one of the main suppliers. Turns out that it takes a ton of oil to go to war, especially when you're an island and you have all of these ships and planes that you need. For us to shut that down is bad for Japan. So some people say, and they have that theory, that Japan goes into Pearl Harbor and tries to go to war with us because they want their oil. Hey, is that with it all connected? Except that one to the left there.
Well, I have to go on buttons.
Hey, we could put Machiavelli in there, see how he fits. Machiavelli. I like that a lot. You want me to show the stream? Do you want to show the stream? You can talk to him. It is currently just myself talking to myself, but you could show them and it'll go on the little highlights. I mean, you can show them though. Good. It is currently just... Yeah, it's just me talking to me. No, I like it a lot. What do you think?
I'm glad I changed it one to all pink.
Now, I know I've been saying that it's...
The white center, but
No, I like it a lot.
I had someone to put it.
I like that a lot.
Looks kind of fat.
No, well, that's good. It gives the kid somewhere to... Stuffed animal.
With arms.
He's got arms. Oh, okay. do 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 do. Yeah, look at. See? See if Psyduck fits in there. Yeah, nice.
I made sure to put the two white ones as the feet.
That is pretty good. Chat, you should see this. It's absolutely fantastic.
We'll do the crab stick for the edge.
Yeah, no, I think that turned out really good.
Weave in the ends and get the buttons, and it should be done. You think that's worth $20?
I'd pay like 40 for that personally. Like, think about that. What is... Okay, chat, what do you think? What do you think just the normal newborn baby blanket? Look at these. They're selling for $40, $50. This one, $390. Yeah.
Look up crochet blanket. Newborn baby crochet blanket.
Crochet. Bum, 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 bum. 72, 65, 64, 64. Giving him a steal for 20. Hey, but for the first one, I like that they're like, hey, do you want to make money? And you're like, yeah, $10, $20. No, honestly, though, I think it's a good thing because if anything, it lets you practice it. And
Oh, I think that Alicia lady is ready.
that which one?
Alicia lady. She's the one that keeps not answering and whatnot.
Are you going to call her? Do I have to shut up?
I might need to talk softer.
I will talk much softer. It is also just me talking to me. Best viewers on stream. Oh, thank you. Is there a way I can... I just realized the name of this. Thank you, Princess.
Honestly, I'm not even gonna get much information from. I'm just gonna schedule them.
Perfect.
Karen 1,000 times, and
Perfect, yeah.
I don't want any like. I'll email you all the information. Just we're gonna get with Michelle.
I will talk much softer. Machiavelli, you are going to knock down this tree, and I'm going to be so mad. Do you know that, buddy? Machiavelli. Machiavelli, no, that's what you're going to do, buddy, because that's what cats do. Cats have to make your day good and bad at the same time, because that's what cats do. So anyways, going for the preparation for the attack, did you know Yamamoto has this attack planned, or at least the idea, all the way back in January of 1941? Again, the attack is December of 1941. It's about 11 months to a year or so of actual planning before the actual attack. But there's a couple things that Japan needs. First of all, they need to make sure that they're going to do this right. So they have different spies in Hawaii. Japanese people and people, at least the locals from Hawaii, look relatively similar. The sailors at this point, too, also were very generous as to different things that they would say, you know, like, hey, this is so-and-so ship. And I believe one of the spies was actually on a couple of these American ships and gave incredible feedback, which this is not the first time in history that a opposing army or somebody that was planning on a surprise attack got inside information. Again, here in Pensacola, right before the siege of Pensacola in 1781, Bernardo de Galvez sent some Spanish over here to Pensacola from Mobile. Same thing as spies, and the British that were here were like, oh yeah, come in the fort and check out this big, beautiful powder magazine, which ends up being exploded by the Spanish just a handful of weeks later. So, again, this is by no means the first time. The main targets here were these battleships here on Battleship Row. Check out all these guys. Actually, it's these ones that they're going to be hitting right here. Now, if there's one thing that Japan is not going to hit, it's there are no aircraft carriers here in Pearl Harbor. There's the theory that FDR knew about the attack ahead of time, so he had all of the aircraft carriers just out on different, just a variety of missions. What nobody in the world knew at the time, though, was that aircraft carriers by December 7th of 1941 had already surpassed battleships as far as which of the two were more valuable. People were still building battleships, but it wasn't the battleships that were the main part of your army. It was the aircraft carriers. And people are going to know this. I guess people by December, the tide was turning, I should say. Maybe I shouldn't say that nobody knew. But after the Repulse, which was British, and I believe it's the King George V. Which is the other one? Not the Repulse. The KG-5. The sinking of the Repulse. Let's see if I can find that real quick. Sinking of the Repulse and Repulse and Prince of Wales. That's it. Yeah, not the KG-5. That didn't sound right. When do these? Yeah, okay, December 10th. So shortly after Pearl Harbor. Yeah, this is a real photo, by the way, which I do like that. So you know what? I will retract, and I will say in December 7th of 1941, it was heavily leaning towards aircraft carriers being more important than battleships. I wouldn't say people were super on board with this yet, but once the Repulse and the Prince of Wales sunk, those were two of the bigger battleships in the British Navy. They were sunk by airplanes, and people realized that having airplanes was more important than having battleships. So did FDR know, especially ahead of time? Nobody knows. It's one of those theories. If you're a big theory and conspiracy theory person, then go ahead. One of the other reasons that this took so long is Pearl Harbor is very shallow, and they needed a way and a technology to drop torpedoes into the water and then still have the torpedoes go and hit the ships without the torpedo hitting the bottom. So that takes a little bit between having the planes, the technology, the strategy in itself is going to take some time, about a year's worth of planning. So on the morning of December 7th, you've got your 6 heavy aircraft carriers. Some of these are going to be present at a handful of other of your famous battles during World War II, and then, of course, all the support vessels. This is the big one here. So when you think of Pearl Harbor, you typically think of the planes. That's 353 zeros, which again, in December of 1941, the zeros are far and away your best plane, possibly through all of World War II, at least of all the countries involved. I could say for sure in the Pacific Theater, the zeros is the highest standard. And then going over again, crippling the naval might. So if it was up to Japan, they basically wanted to knock the United States out. I think they would have wanted the United States out of the war for longer than really by the time the United States can turn around and defend Midway, which is 6 or so months after this attack. I think if you would have asked Japan, it would have been a success if the United States was crippled until, say, 1945. 1943 even, maybe a couple years as opposed to just a couple months. But, I mean, they still hit them pretty hard. And something else a lot of people don't know is you have these 5 midget submarines, which are these little 2-man submarines that could fire off, I think it was just 2 torpedoes. I believe now all 5 of them have been accounted for. Interesting, one of these ends up actually surfacing on land and beaches itself on one of the beaches. This guy becomes the first prisoner of war and gets basically crucified in Japan because he is allowed to be taken prisoner, which is not something that people in Japan did. They basically fought to the death. That is why Japan is so hard to fight against. One of these midget submarines, too, by the way, most people don't know, but I don't know if I have it on this next page. I don't think I do. Let's go with the first wave, because let's talk about right before the first wave hits. There is a great story of the U.S. Ward, which I will put up right here. Here's the Ward. Oh, let's do ship. World War II. Okay, so this is the U.S. Ward, and really early on December 7th, it claimed to have taken some shots at what it thought was a submarine. And for the longest time, nobody exactly knew, like, what were they talking about? Was this true? But they said that they hit one of the comm towers of a submarine. Check this out. Here's the first shot in World War II from the United States. I will show it to you. Can you see it here? Nope. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see if we can find it. Yeah. Explain the World War II. Aaron Ward. No, I want to see the we want the Ward submarine hit. U.S. Ward subcom tower hit. Right here. Boom. Oh. This. Oh gosh. Of course, it's the wrong side. This hole right here. That is the first shot in World War II for the Americans. This right here. I wonder if this. Oh, okay. This right here. That is the first shot for the United States in World War II. You are currently looking at it. Or at least maybe the first hit. I guess I can't say for sure the first shot. But that right there helps bring the United States into war. The U.S. war does that before Pearl Harbor actually takes place. And then check this out. If we go back a couple, we also have actually one more. This right here. If I can go to this photo. This is one of the first pictures of Pearl Harbor. So as far as really early on, you've got this right here, and then you've got this right here. That is some of your very, very, very first shots in World War II. You're looking at both of them, which I think is super fascinating. Sorry about that. Make sure my YouTube chat's still good. Okay, so if you take the focus off the Ward and just stick with the waves of planes, you get 181 planes that take off at 6 a.m. Torpedoes, dive bombers, the whole nine. There is a really good documentary. It's minute by minute Pearl Harbor, because it's talking about how the sun actually plays a huge role into the attack. Basically, the attack doesn't necessarily go as planned, and they kind of just start hitting basically the same ship too many times. Again, I've made the case for years that Pearl Harbor's kind of a failure. 181 planes should do more than just a couple ships. Even right here, where they were trying to bomb the airfields and Japanese planes. Of course, they want to bomb the airfields and the planes, so the United States can't get any planes up for defense. But even some of the oil fields there in Pearl Harbor don't get hit. Again, all the important stuff, like, obviously you want to hit the ships. 2,000 people are going to die at Pearl Harbor. That's terrible. It's about the same amount of people that will pass away during 9/11. Obviously, 9/11 is a big day. The West Virginia, the Oklahoma, and the Arizona are 3 of the only battleships that sink completely. This video I don't think works, but this is the sinking of the Arizona. The Arizona is the one that famously gets hit, and right where all of the ammo is, so I always say the powder magazine, and the Arizona explodes and blows up basically completely in half right away. Again, Pearl Harbor is terrible. I'm not saying that all the deaths aren't vindicated. Almost half of the people that die are on the Arizona alone. I also say that this is a Sunday morning. A lot of people are just getting back from church and being out and not anticipating, obviously, a big attack. Not that you would anyways. So I think, again, it could have been way worse. Once the first attack ends, the United States is scrambling. They realize they've been attacked. There is that theory that some of the people in the radar, one of the radar towers, saw this coming and thought, no, it's okay, because they were anticipating a group of basically practice bombers coming in. I do feel bad because the guy that was running over that radar ended up getting fired and ran through the mud. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. If you told it to me, I'd be like, that's the guy. So I do feel bad. But there's a second wave that happens about an hour later. Again, 170 planes, kind of the same story. They just go and clean up. But what ends up happening is, again, you've only got 3 ships. 3 for good. Pearl Harbor is so shallow that a lot of those ships sink, and they just take these big cranes and just lift them out of the water. The only reason they couldn't salvage the Arizona, the Oklahoma, and the West Virginia is they just got hit too much. I mean, the Arizona completely blew up and was blown in half. Some of the ships literally just got hit and then capsized. Like, they just flipped over. So they just plucked them out of the water, flipped them back on over, and then, you get some maintenance, put them in dry dock, and 6 months later, a lot of these same ships from Pearl Harbor are present at Midway. They're present in the Guadalcanal. They're present later during Okinawa and Iwo Jima and a lot of the rest of the Pacific campaign. Now, why this, you could make the case, was such a success for Japan, when I've been saying this whole time I think it's a failure, is Japan only loses 29 planes. I mean, you saw that there's around 300, so to lose, 300? 1%? 10% of your force? Pretty good. I suppose the United States doesn't lose a ton either. 3 for good, so you probably lose percentage-wise less. Now, again, the Japanese pilots, I think, were nothing against the Americans, but the Japanese pilots took forever to become pilots. I mean, it really was tough. So everybody they lost, you could make the claim, might be a little bit more valuable because the United States is just so many more people. But to lose that few, still pretty impressive. I mean, anytime you're losing almost 2,500 people in any battle is a lot. I want to say this is close to the same amount of people that passed away in D-Day as well. So again, one D-Day, one 9/11 is about the same as the damages from Pearl Harbor. FDR, of course, says that this is a day that will live in infamy, though interestingly enough, this was not his original quote right there. He actually changes that last second, so that's one of the best edits in the history of the United States. And somewhere on there, you can actually search his notes, and you can see where he crossed it out and wrote "A day that will live in infamy," which just a great speech in general. Today is the official declaration of war anniversary. That's why we're covering this. So December 8th, 1941. So 51, 61, 71, 81, 91, 2011, 2021. So we're looking at 84 years? 84 years ago, we declared war. Um, Gosh, it's crazy. World War II is still one of those events that doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but we're getting almost 100 years. I mean, think of it's not that long. This is the Arizona that blows up. That ship's almost 100 years old. I mean, right here in the United States, when I talk about stuff at the museum that's 200 years old, people are like, oh, 200 years old was a long time ago. It's like, yeah, well, we're 20 years or so from World War II ending in 20 years. We're 15 years from right now to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the start. So it's closer to 100 years than it isn't. 100 years, it's a long time ago. I thought I had one more slide. I guess I don't. This is, by the way, Pearl Harbor today. So you can go to the little memorial there. There's a museum on the mainland. It's actually a really cool museum. You should check it out. I can't say that I have actually been, but it is definitely on my bucket list. But yeah, Pearl Harbor, definitely one of those super powerful events. Look into it. It's absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Let's see, do we have anybody on YouTube here that wants to say anything? Let's check the old YouTube machine out. And again, World War II is just such a... It's like fascinating. It's almost like a car accident that you just can't look away from. 61 minutes. That's okay. That was 61 minutes basically just talking about Pearl Harbor. I know there was some other stuff mixed in between there, but I could talk ad nausea about World War II. I mean, this isn't even probably I'm not even scratching the tip of the iceberg as far as Pearl Harbor. I mean, you can get into why Japan sides with Germany and Italy. You can get more into the steel and oil. This is a really good one. Some of these photos, by the way, you can get really into. I used to be able to know which of these battleships were which. I always am fascinated, by the way, of people that can do that. They could just take a look at the stuff and be like, oh, that's the Texas and the Arizona and the New Mexico. It's been a while. You can see here too, by the way. There's the airfield already burning. This is Wheeling Airfield. And if you were to go to Pearl Harbor today, you can still see some shots on the wall of where these planes hit, which I think is pretty powerful. It's kind of like you can, here in the United States, Hawaii's in the United States, but here in the Gulf Coast, you can go to Fort Pulaski, which is in Savannah, Georgia, and that still has evidence of Civil War shots. And you can still see some of the Civil War cannon shots on the side of the brick fort, which, again, is powerful. Also, I'm pretty sure Fort Pulaski is where Osceola's grave is. Osceola is a famous Seminole Indian. So if anybody's a fan of the Florida State Seminoles, there's Osceola. Very good. Okay. Man, it's fascinating stuff. It really is. Fascinating stuff. We'll switch it to Black Ops here. Switch the stream a little bit. Switch the stream just a tad. I'll be right back while I make some coffee.